His name was Adrien, not Adrian. Adrien, a name that sounded like something expensive and slightly bitter. He painted, not for money, for attention. What he craved wasn't creation, it was being watched. We met in a bookstore cafe. He was sketching strangers like a man trying to memorize the world. He slid a napkin toward me, my face drawn in charcoal. Then he asked if I always blinked 4 times before lying. It should have felt strange. It didn't. Adrian made discomfort feel like curiosity. He asked questions that hurt. What would I do if my mother died tomorrow? Had I ever fantasized about disappearing? He didn't smile. He studied. People were puzzles to him. He needed to solve them. We started seeing each other. Week 1, he brought me coffee and a book I mentioned once. Week 2, he painted me. Said my face confessed everything I tried to hide. Titled it Still Life with Internal War. I laughed. He didn't. By week 3, I was hooked. Not on him. On the way I felt near him, like I mattered, like silence was allowed, like someone saw my mess and called it art. Adrian had rules. No lying, no pretending to be fine, no interrupting him while he painted. He could vanish into work for days. Said art didn't owe anyone closure. We made love like we were trying to erase loneliness. We argued like drunk philosophers. Once I found him sketching me while I cried. He said pain was his muse. I told him to burn his sketchbook. He kissed me instead. He didn't believe in apologies, only intensity. If I asked for space, he asked if that meant abandonment. If I said I was tired, he'd call sleep a form of dying and stare at me like I might disappear. I left for 2 days once. He sent a painting, a wilted flower in a glass box. No words, just that. I came back. That was the first time I said no, a soft one. He asked to move in. I hesitated. He kissed my forehead and said, "Don't worry. You'll unlearn resistance." It felt romantic then. Friends asked about him. I told half-truths, called him brilliant, passionate. I didn't mention how he'd go quiet after I disagreed, or how he'd look at me like I was breaking something precious. One night I woke up. He was painting me while I slept. Said I looked honest when unconscious. I didn't know if I should be flattered or scared. More numbers slipped out. Quiet ones. "No, I don't want to be part of your exhibit. No, I'm not posing for the nude sketch. No, I don't want to talk about my childhood tonight." Every no met with distance. Or worse, a painting. He made my refusals into portraits of betrayal, called them emotional abortions, said I was killing connection before it could be born. So I started saying yes again. Yes to the gallery invite. Yes to skipping dinner with my sister. Yes to his rewrites of my emotions. Adrien turned psychology into poetry, then into a trap. There was a dinner, his artist friends. They wore vintage sweaters and smiled like secrets. I wore a black dress he picked. No back, no spine. Someone asked how we met. I said, he found me in a bookstore. Adrien laughed. Number I uncovered her. They all nodded, like I was a fossil, not a person. That night I told him I didn't like being corrected. He kissed my cheek, said, "Then don't be wrong." I laughed. That nervous, stop me from crying laugh. Adrien liked that laugh. By the time I realized it wasn't a relationship, it was a system. I was already deep inside it. My world shrank. His studio, his moods, his approval. I became either the canvas or the critic, nothing in between. And slowly I stopped saying no, because in Adrian's world, no was defiance. No was war. He didn't hit me. He vanished. He punished with silence, with absence, with disappointment. And then he'd return with a flower, a sketch, a metaphor dressed as love, and I forgave him every time because Adrien was the charmer and I was his favorite medium. There's a moment when you stop choosing and start complying. It doesn't feel loud. It doesn't break like glass. It clicks, quiet, final. Mine happened on a Tuesday. Adrien asked me to quit my job. Not directly. That wasn't his style. He said, "You're too brilliant for spreadsheets. You should be here, creating, with me." I said I couldn't afford to. He said he'd cover everything. I said I wasn't comfortable. He smiled like I failed a test. "Comfort zones are cages," he said. 2 weeks later, I quit. Life with Adrien became fog, paint fumes, vinyl static, arguments that left me questioning if I'd misunderstood myself. He'd wake me at 3 a.m., said he had a dream, needed to paint it, with me in it. He'd pull me from the shower, said the steam made my skin look like surrender. I stopped resisting because saying no felt like disappointing God. Adrien didn't want a girlfriend. He wanted a muse, a disciple, a mirror. Every time I resisted, he looked wounded, like I was breaking some sacred ritual. I didn't want to be the villain in his art, so I gave in. He controlled small things, the thermostat, the grocery list, the music, tiny edits, until nothing I liked felt like mine anymore. He hated bright colors, said they screamed insecurity, bought me earth tones, neutrals, clothes that didn't ask for attention. I wore them, not for me, for him. That became my compass. Not truth, not comfort, just Adrien. He used we like a spell. We don't do brunch. We don't waste time on small talk. We don't support art that sells. But somehow, only I changed. One day, Lena called, my best friend. She got engaged, wanted to celebrate. I told Adrien. He raised a brow. "Lena bores me." "She's my friend," I said. "Friends keep you stagnant." I didn't go. She never called again. That night I stared at my phone. Adrien kissed my hand. "If she mattered," he said, "you wouldn't hesitate." It wasn't comfort, it was control. I started journaling on scraps, hidden in makeup bags, things I couldn't say out loud. I wrote, "I feel small. He only touches me when he's inspired. I miss myself." I never reread them. Just writing them felt risky. Adrien got colder, sharper. He never yelled. He never left. But if I interrupted him, if I disagreed with a quote he loved, if I looked at my phone too long, he froze me out. Full silence, no sound, just absence. He'd sit in the same room like I wasn't there. And when I'd finally break, whisper, "I'm sorry." Even without knowing why, he'd nod like a judge, and everything would start again. Affection as reward, absence as punishment, that was the currency. I woke up each day with anxiety in my throat. Before he even opened his eyes, I watched his breath, listened to silence, predicted his moods like weather. One morning, I said I was feeling off. He said, "That's because you're resisting transformation." I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Thank you." Like a student, like a pet. He had a new project, a series called No as Violence. Every painting was me, distorted, fragmented, grieving. One canvas showed me with tape on my mouth, eyes wide. Another had me drowning, red brush strokes like blood. "I'm showing what rejection feels like," he said. I asked if he was okay using me like this. "You're not you in these," he said. "You're the idea of resistance." I nodded, because what else could I do? Even sex changed. It wasn't brutal, but it wasn't love. It felt surgical, like he was digging for something buried. He made me say yes before he touched me. Whispered, "You're mine," while marking places no one could see. If I hesitated, he stopped, not out of care, out of disappointment, like I ruined his vision. So I rehearsed consent, like lines in a play. One morning, I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back looked like an apology. Eyes dim, hair dull, smile thin. I whispered, no, just to hear it. It sounded foreign, old. I whispered again, louder, no. Then I laughed, the first real laugh in months. Adrien knocked a minute later. You okay? I smiled. Yeah, just talking to myself. He stared, then kissed my forehead, but I saw it in his eyes. He heard the word, and he knew. It wasn't for him. Adrien once said, to leave someone is to erase a piece of yourself. I believed him for too long, until I realized some pieces deserved to rot. It started with a text I wasn't supposed to see. 3:17 a.m. His phone lit up, face down on the nightstand. He was asleep beside me, arm draped over my stomach like ownership. The name read, Unnamed Muse number 3. The message, you were right. She doesn't know who she is anymore. My heart didn't stop. It slowed, not out of shock, but recognition. Of course there were others. Of course I was just another canvas in the gallery. I looked at him, this man who built a temple out of my silence. And for the first time, I didn't feel pain. I felt free. I didn't plan my escape. I planned my revenge because Adrien didn't deserve to be walked away from. He deserved to be denied. First, I stole back my face, cut my hair short, rough, bold, the kind of haircut he'd call aggressive. I wore red lipstick to breakfast. He blinked, slow, like swallowing poison. Second, I stopped answering. He'd ask how I felt. I'd shrug. He'd push for clarity. I'd say, I don't feel like explaining myself today. He started to unravel. Adrien didn't need love. He needed control. And I was finally speaking a language he didn't understand. Silence, boundaries, shrugs, number. He turned up the heat. Roses one day, cold shoulders the next. I didn't flinch. He painted me again, called it the withholding. When I saw it, I laughed. You're finally being honest, I said. His eyes burned. You think this is a game? No, I said. I think it's always been a game. I just stopped playing blindfolded. I opened a new bank account, took freelance work under a fake name, rented a storage unit 2 towns over. Piece by piece, I moved myself out of the world he made. He didn't notice. Narcissists don't look for cracks. They assume the walls will hold until the final painting. He called it the empty frame, hung it in the center of his studio, a massive canvas, blank. I stood in front of it, arms crossed. What is it? He said. It's what I see when I look at you now. I didn't blink. That's not art, I said. That's fear. That night, I left a note. 3 words, one final masterpiece. No, thank you. I moved into a small apartment above a flower shop. The air smelled like forgiveness. Adrien didn't call, didn't show up, didn't beg, because men like Adrien don't have a script for being left. Only abandoned men feel pain. Artists like him, they feel shame. Then one night, a letter came. No name, no return address. Inside, a charcoal sketch. It was me, smiling, hair short, lipstick loud, at the bottom in fading ink. You're finally unpaintable. I burned it, not out of rage, out of closure. People asked what happened. I never told the full story because Adrien was never the point. He was just the test. The point was me, learning that no isn't cruelty. It's creation, creation of space, of sanity, of self, and somewhere in a gallery full of tragic women and God-complex metaphors, there's a blank canvas, still hanging, still unsigned, still waiting for a name it will never earn back.